how many times have we seen an advert on a particular social media platform that you kind of go, well, that's pretty cool, but I've never heard of them before. I don't think I'm going to go click. That could be clickbait.
And I suppose, and I'm going to come back to one of your starting comments. You said, it's about trust. So I'm thinking, like, as we automate and as we create these great experiences, I mentioned a startup can get the same capabilities that a well-established organization can, but they'll never, well, not never, but they won't have the trust to start off with. So am I going to give, an unknown company my credit card and say, go book my travel on my behalf? So I suppose that creating brands of trust is going to be as important as ever.
And you are spot on, because like if you think about, and I know we just talked about the existential threat to an existing enterprise if they don't do something, that a startup can come along and kind of eat their lunch. But you're right, because the reality of this is twofold. It's, if I think about an existing enterprise, what have you got? You've got a strong brand, you've delivered on your promises, so therefore there's trust, and you've actually got a lot of data on me as a customer. So those are the unique opportunities and kind of position that you're in to leverage this agentic AI, where a brand new company isn't a brand I recognize, doesn't really have the trust factor, and actually, to your point, I start to question, am I going to give you my data, right? Or am I going to transact with you and do something with you? And the answer is probably no. And we've all, unfortunately, we're in a world, and touching on your cyber point, we're in a world at the moment, and we see this in social media, where there's a lot of scams emerging. Like, I know that I'm very conscious of it, but how many times have we seen an advert on a particular social media platform that you kind of go, well, that's pretty cool, but I've never heard of them before.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to go click. That could be clickbait. Like, do I want to fall victim to giving my credit card information over to a third party that I don't know? And what's really, like, this is what I do. I think everybody's slightly different, but I look at the product, I look at kind of the name of the product, the understanding, and then I go over to a channel that I trust. Like, it could be, a different platform completely. And I go, well, actually, I know that, 99% of everything I bought on that platform, I get.
Yeah.
So then I start kind of shifting my behavior and going, trying to find the same product on a different platform, but everybody's slightly different.
Yeah.
But I do think it comes back to this. There is a fraud. There's a lot of fraud emerging in this space at the moment. And while this technology can offer huge advantages for businesses to excel and grow, I think there's also the realization that actually this technology could be used for a lot of bad things as well. So we've got to be very mindful of that.
And maybe just to before I move off of this sort of startup versus established, I look at PwC 100, and I'll get the number wrong, but 185 years old. Salesforce 26 years old now. We sit on heaps of data, and so all of the LLMs, all of the AI is only as good as the data that it can use. Otherwise, kind of everyone's going to give the same answer, right? If you're all using the same LLM, the same AI with very little data, you're going to get a very vanilla answer. So is the key data and that understanding of the industries that you work in, etc.?
You're doing a better job at this than I am, Quinton. Yes, it is all about the data, because like, what do we know over the last kind of just even the short 2-3 years, right? This is what we know. The publicly available LLMs have been flooded with consumers, right? So everyone has a different perspective. In fact, I sit on an advisory board for an AI company, and they recently said to me that they ran an experiment where they took a foundational model, they tested it for a level accuracy, just a foundational model. They had a good level of accuracy, and then they released that foundational model on the internet for 24 hours and to learn off of the information on the internet. Now, the problem with that, and what they realized, was the accuracy level dropped 40% in 24 hours. And what happens here is, when we think about this, is there's so much data out there on the internet, but there's so much misinformation as well. So data is the unlock. And if we think about kind of the consumer AI models that are out there that are available that, you know, our kids are playing with, you know, they could be asking silly random questions that it starts to kind of self-evolve from, and suddenly you get, you know, more hallucinations, more toxicity, more bias bleed through. And this is why when I think about data being the unlock, and I know it's an overwhelming factor because many customers say like, oh, I've got so much data and it's all over the place. But the reality of this is, when I think about data being the unlock, is, you know, the ability to embed your data into the prompt, or, you know, you don't even have to train an LLM on all of your data because that's very time consuming, costly, huge amount of energy being used as well. But if I can just take some of my existing data, take that, combine it with the prompt of what I'm trying to achieve, it's called embedding is the technique, then ultimately what I will get back is I'll get back a more relevant answer, something that's contextually aware to my business and my customers and what I'm trying to achieve. And that is where you have something that hasn't hallucinated, doesn't have toxicity or bias in it, and it's actually really relevant to what you're trying to achieve. And I think that's where we are now. But it's really hard for customers to get to that point because customers are going, Paul, I hear you, but like I've got, you know, thousands of disconnected apps, and yes, I've had a data lake strategy, and I'm trying to bring all my lakes or my swamps, and I'm trying to move them all into one location. But even when you do that and you consolidate your data, it's still trapped. And that data is value. So that's trapped value for your business. So what you need to do is you then need to figure out a way of how can I activate this? And this comes back to you right at the offset. This comes back to the first question. Are apps dead? Right? No. Because if I've got this data and I need to activate it somewhere, where am I going to activate it? Where do I meet my customer? I meet my customer on an app, whatever that might be. So in today's world, you need the ability to take that trapped value and that trapped data. You need to use it in conjunction with your AI. That then gives you the ability to use it in conjunction with your workflow that then triggers something on the app that is where you meet your customer. So a very strange way of going around an architectural view, but like that's how you're going to unlock and meet your customer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think, and you know, everyone seems to be. Data's been a problem for as long as I've been in IT. I must be like, whenever I meet somebody, they tell me the data's clean and it's complete, and it never is. And it's been like that for the last, I don't know, 20 or 30 years. But it does seem to me like things have got easier. Like, so again, product push, but data cloud, that activation of data, not having to copy data between lakes and that type of thing, is making it easier for us to get into those silos and activate them.
100%. And I think this is where business and IT you can see are working hand in hand, because you need the ability to. You're not going to just work with one technology. So therefore, how do you partner? How do you leverage those existing partners and relationships? You know, we've got partners now with all of the major data lake providers: Snowflake, Databricks, AWS, etc. You know, BigQuery, Google, etc. So that's great but in reality, what you don't want to do is you don't want to ingest that data. You don't want to duplicate it. You don't want the extra storage. You don't want to have to pay twice for it. So actually, can you reference that data at source, bidirectionally update that data or change that data based on your needs and your business? But most importantly, because you've connected to that data, can you then bring it into the workflow and activate it? So, you know, the breakthroughs where and this is, you know, coming back to the earlier point, trying to be a progressive company that is continuously delivering value with our multiple releases a year is where our customers win together, right? They need it, right? We need to connect the different things together because that's where we're going to see a load of value. So let's just go ahead and do that.
And as you're speaking, I'm kind of reflecting on a couple of things that I go. So if we can connect the data and we can activate the data, you quite succinctly put it that the future is about architecting the processes that are those that can be agentified, but it's these enterprise processes It feels like we move to a world where we're not sales, service, marketing, finance anymore. It feels like we move into a world where it's end-to-end processing, and you dip into the right systems when you need to without seeing those hard boundaries that we do today.
Yeah, 100%. I think like every organization, um, we all fall victim of this over generations of building businesses, which is, we've got silos. This team or this division does this division does that. Um, and in reality, what are we trying to do, right? We might be, if we're selling the product, we've got to go and prospect to a customer. We've then got to bring that customer through a sales process. We've then got to figure out how do we offer a world-class aftercare service, right? We've got to look at it at the value chain from start to end, the whole life cycle management of the customer. And um, I think this is where like the ability to have agents at every step of the process that operate around different jobs to be done, but like the value that you can bring across the life cycle here is going to be what differentiates businesses. Because like we've all had this experience, right? You've phoned up a contact center and someone has said, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I don't handle that product. I'm going to have to transfer you to the right department." How frustrating is that? But if you now have an agent that has access to the data and actually can look at the whole life cycle elements, can understand when you kind of inquired about something, what your last three issues were, to what future products you're looking at, suddenly you're going to have an incredible connected experience around the entire value chain. And that will unlock like completely new possibilities for businesses as well.